Welcome, ladies and gents. Chris Andre here. You can find me at BetBoxing on Twitter for boxing-related tweets, or you can subscribe to the channel, hit that notifications button, and get your notification whenever a new video is uploaded. If you liked the introduction, a lot of you have messaged me about it. Callum Newbold is the guy, I'll reiterate, that created it. You can check out his portfolio in the description box of the video below. If you want some graphics works done for your own website or whatever, he's the man to check out. Also, if you are a Patreon of Hatman, or you want to become one, you have to check out the Slim Pickings video. It's a video which is essentially a review of Tinder. It's hilarious. If you need to pick me up, if you need to laugh at the state of society today, and you just need a general feel-good video, just something to make you laugh. I don't know if it's going to make you feel good or shake your head in despair, but regardless, it's definitely worth checking out. So check that out. Now let's talk boxing. First and foremost, let's talk about Triller. Triller have announced that they are signing, just on a one-fight basis, just as an alternative commentary, Donald Trump and Donald Trump Jr. for the Holyfield-Belfort fight. Now, I find this extraordinary because it's essentially creating Triller into a circus show. Now, I'm not trying to be political here because it wouldn't make a difference whether it was Donald Trump or whether it was another politician. In fact, they've done the same thing in the past with Snoop Dogg, right? The reason I'm calling it a circus show is because it is actually focusing on taking the premises of a circus show. What does a circus show do? A circus will take your attention away from just the performance and embellish it with either otherworldly or outlandish things. So if you want to see someone doing backflips and incredible acrobatics, you could go and watch gymnastics. Go and watch the rings. Go and watch the floor. Go and watch whatever it is, rhythmic gymnastics. The reason people go to the circus is because they want to see the embellishment. They want to see clowns. They want to see unusual music from instruments from a bygone era. They want to see elephants walk across the stage, right? They want to see people breathing in fire. It's not just the performance, it's the performance, the athletic performance is enwrapped, is enveloped inside this other embellishment that is almost otherworldly. And in a way, this over-the-top sort of detail is what they're trying to do with bringing in the likes of Trump or Snoop Dogg. My question is that what you want to see? As a hardcore boxing fan, personally, it's not for me. If I'm watching a fight, I want to see a brilliant analyst breaking down the fight. But that's because both I and you guys here that are tuning into this channel are hardcore boxing fans. Okay. The younger generation, who may also be hardcore boxing fans. I'm not saying if you like this stuff, you're not a hardcore boxing fan. But as much as I want to hold on to my youth and grasp it and never let go, the reality is that I'm on the cusp of becoming an old timer myself. So I want to know the youngsters out there from 15 years old or younger, if you're younger than that and you're on this channel, to 25. You know, let me know what appeals to you guys. Do you like this idea? You know, do you like the idea of concerts in the middle of boxing shows where boxing becomes almost like a side piece? Or do you still want to see boxing as a central tenet of what you're watching? And, you know, while you do want entertainment, you feel like this is going a little bit too far. I don't know. Let me know what your opinion is. Talking about that particular card, Evander Holyfield was the favourite to beat Victor Belfort, by the way. Holyfield is, of course, a late replacement for Oscar De La Hoya, who, tested positive. So Holyfield came in as a favourite. He opened up as the bookie's favourite. He was on the pads. He looked so slow that he's become the underdog. I've never seen that happen before. I've seen it happen at weigh-ins where someone's come in and they look in terrible shape. But I've never seen it happen on a warm-up on the pads on fight week. So let me know what your take is on that. One of the things I look at when I'm looking at fighters on pads is reaction time. And quite often what will happen is you will see a trainer and he'll have his hands down and they're moving around the ring, and then he'll raise his hand. He'll raise the pad. And he might spit instruction, or he might not. He might just put his hand up. And the fighter, then hits the pad. So they're moving around the ring, they're jostling, they're focusing on position. Trainer puts his hand up, the fighter jabs. The speed in which the hand goes up to the punch being thrown, not the movement of the hand, I'm not talking about how quickly the shot's delivered, but the reaction time is one of the things I tend to look out for. And it was very, very slow. I mean, you could have gone and made yourself a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, dunked a couple of rich tea biscuits in there and a Jaffa cake for good measure, and then slipped Holyfield shots. They were so slow. And it reiterates the idea of Father Time as the only undefeated and only unbeaten fighter. Truly unbeatable fighter. That's Father Time. And what I don't like is that Holyfield, who hasn't been completely clear with his speech in recent years, is of a certain age now, or he's getting in the ring, and to me it feels like exploitation. And I understand a lot of people are going to say it's not exploitation, he made the choice, he's earning the money, but I don't know, man, it's dangerous. God forbid if something happens to one of these old timers. David Hayes describing it as, you know, it's like the Expendables. Well, the Expendables, it might be very cool in that way, but the Expendables is a movie. Sylvester Stallone isn't really out there throwing deadly shots against Jean-Claude Van Damme, right? Wesley Snipes ain't really shooting a gun at Dolph Lundgren's head. You understand? It's different. So these are big shots being thrown between serious fighters potentially, whereby power is one of the last things to go. But your reaction times do go fairly early in the process of aging. And that reaction time is what can affect things like rolling with a punch, deflecting a punch, dodging a punch. Do you understand? So you're starting to eat these big power shots full flush. It's dangerous. Let me know what you think about that. Really quickly as well, I also want to discuss a break in the Manny Pacquiao camp after his strength and conditioning coach, Justin Fortune, has left Manny Pacquiao. He said, I can't work with Freddie anymore. He keeps blaming me. He always blames somebody else. He never takes responsibility. I was blamed for the cramps and the tightness suffered by Pacquiao in the early rounds of the bout because of him being overtrained a few days before the fight. Here's the thing, right? To me, this strikes me a little bit of, you know, this is Deontay Wilder-esque. And although it doesn't have the same level of delusion and stuff like that, we understand that, right? But I did a video recently on Wilder Fury 3, or Fury Wilder 3, where I spoke of hubris. And yes, it was a performance type video and it was done to entertain, adding a lot of mythology in there and stuff like that. But the point stands. You're talking about two men who have been engulfed or seized by hubris, and it could end up really costing one of them. Well, by the same token, if at 42 years old, you cannot see that the reason you're cramping up is because your body's not working in the way it used to, and you're blaming a strength and conditioning coach, because Manny Pacquiao's the one that first made this excuse, or whether you are his trainer, and instead of turning and saying, Manny, it's not your strength and conditioning coach's fault. This is what happens to the human body. Well, then you are either completely delusional, or you are so seized by the grip of hubris that you are incapable of self-analysis and self-awareness. You're incapable of understanding that the human body wilts. It is not immortal. What is it you're expecting exactly? To move like you did when you were 25? Let me know what you think about this and whether you agree with the trainer here. You might disagree. You might say, Chris, listen, the fact of the matter is, there's talk of him cramping up early in the fight. If it was age-related, he would cramp late in the fight. But even then, I didn't see a tight Manny Pacquiao in the first 3-4 rounds, and then all of a sudden he became more fluid and his cramps went away and he started bobbing around the ring like there was no tomorrow. I didn't see that. But let me know what you think. I won't dwell too much on Valdez and his failed drugs test. This is old news, obviously. But one thing I do want to touch upon is the fact that there are drug testing companies and governing bodies, commissions that have different lists of banned substances compared to other counterparts of theirs. That has to change. You can't have a substance which is banned by VADA but isn't banned by WADA, and a substance that's banned by UCAD that isn't banned by whoever else. You can't have that. Boxing has to come together, and at least, I get that there's going to always be divisions in boxing, but at the very least, have an overarching concept of what is allowed and what is not allowed in the sport. And I'm not making excuses for Oscar Valdez. I'm not saying he was innocent or anything like that. I'm just saying it leaves loopholes, and those loopholes need to be shut off as far as I'm concerned. Hughie Fury has come out and he said his destiny is to be at the top. He believes he'll be a world champion. I've seen a lot of people rubbish this, okay? And this is linked to the Sky Sports announcement of their new stable. Now, you have to understand that Hughie Fury, a very young heavyweight, has a lot of good skills in his arsenal. A lot of people say, but he's not a puncher. You don't need to be a puncher, man. We've covered this so many times. There are different skill sets for different fighters. You can have different types of weapons. It's just about knowing how to use your weapons. He was learning on the job. And back in the day, in the 30s, 40s, 50s, you had a lot of fighters who would rack up a whole bunch of losses because they were learning on the job. And eventually, they went to become fantastic fighters. And when you start to see the list of all-time great fighters, You'll start to see when you're looking at the top 100, you'll see some fighters with 20 defeats, 30 defeats, and you're thinking, what? How did that happen? Because they were learning on the job. You can still be a great fighter because you're building up towards something, and you are going to stumble along the way. This Floyd Mayweather concept of if you take an L, that's the end. It's got to end, man. It's killing the sport. And Hughie Fury's got age on his side, he's got time on his side, and he has got a lot of talent. So I'm not writing the guy out. Let's not forget, he's been competitive against top-level fighters already. He was competitive against Povetkin and Pulev, and he was competitive against Joseph Parker. So give the kid a break. Don't write him off just yet. In terms of the Sky Sports stable, though, that they've announced, listen, I'm not sold on that stable. Not because it's not a good stable, right? It is. Chris Eubank, I think, is a terrific signing for them. Hughie Fury, of course. I've just defended him. But Richard Riakporhe they've got. But guys like Hughie Fury, they're for the hardcore boxing fans, right? They're for the hardcore fans. He's a technician. If you're a hardcore boxing fan, you might enjoy watching Hughie. If you're not a hardcore boxing fan and you're a casual, which is where predominantly Sky's fan base comes from, you might not be as impressed, right? What you want as a casual, if you're a football fan and you're watching a documentary that's just come on building up a fight right after a football match, you want to be captured by it, and you want to buy into the fighting styles and the characters of these two fighters. Now, for me personally, if I was on Sky, I tell you who I would have tried to sign up: David Lemieux. And I'll tell you why. Lemieux, you could build up a massive rivalry with Chris Eubank Jr. You're talking about a monster puncher, one of the biggest pound for pound punchers in the sport, right? A very good looking guy who a lot of women love in his home country. Chris Eubank Jr. seems very popular with women here too. He's frenetic in his tempo. Fantastic chin. Keeps coming forward. Lemieux has proven to be a little bit vulnerable at stages in his career in the past. But to get to that vulnerability, you've got to walk through hellfire. Stylistically, it's a great fight. Imagine you had Lemieux banging out a few British middleweights and super middleweights who weren't top level names, but you'd be getting them on Sky, and he's banging them out, and he's calling out Eubank, and him and Eubank are trash talking each other on Twitter. Trust me, that's a fight that can be made. Now, that's just one fighter I'm giving you an example of. But there are a whole bunch of fighters of that style, that ilk, the exciting fighters, someone who's got a mouth on them, someone who's a performer. Because Sky Sports are never going to compete at this present moment in time with DAZN, with Top Rank, although Top Rank fighters are actually, I take that back. Top Rank are going to be fighting on Sky, but it's in the early hours of the morning, right? So in terms of primetime TV, they're not going to be competing with DAZN or indeed even the Sauerlands or anybody like that. So what they need to do is capture the casual. And they can still do that in a manner which would appeal to the hardcore. And I just gave you one example of that. They need to start to think of personalities and fighting styles rather than just great technicians. Now, last couple of things I'm going to say. Billy Joe Saunders has made a comment which I find to be a little bit contradictory, and so has Tyson Fury, so I really want to quickly cover them. First and foremost, Saunders said he's retiring, but the only fight he would come out for is Eubank Jr., but that the money would have to be right. To me, that makes no sense. If you're already financially secure, as you say, and money is not a motivation, then the only reason to come back for Eubank would be a rivalry, in which case, why does the money have to be right? If money is the motivation, then why does Eubank have to be the only fighter you come back for? It's unusual, right? I guess the counter argument to my point would be that he sees Eubank as such an easy fight that it's almost like when Floyd Mayweather said, I'm retired, but you're going to give me 100 million to fight Logan Paul, a YouTuber? I'll take that. Maybe that's his mindset. But does he really see Eubank as such an easy fight when the first fight, although from a technical perspective was somewhat of a mismatch, as a fight, holistically, it wasn't a mismatch. It was, Saunders had some scary moments towards the end of the fight. So I don't think that counter argument to the point stands. So what is Saunders thinking about? And also Tyson Fury has said that he wants to fight, his ideal fight plan moving forward is Deontay Wilder on the 9th of October, then Dillian Whyte, then Anthony Joshua twice in March and September. So Whyte in December. I don't understand that. Why is he still talking about Dillian Whyte now? What is going on here? Does he not want the Anthony Joshua fight? And before I hear anybody say, Chris, you're hating on Fury, let me just remind you of one quick thing. When people were talking about David Price as being the next guy to take over the sport, to dethrone Tyson Fury, and to dethrone Klitschko, and Fury's just a guy that uppercuts himself in the face, I was out here telling you all, Tyson Fury's the one that's got the tools to become the heavyweight champion of the world, to dethrone Vladimir Klitschko. He's going to be the one to do it. He's the one that's got the tools. He's a rough diamond, but he's the one that's got the rough tools that you can hone to make him into one of the best heavyweights of all time. I was saying that and people were laughing at me. I was getting cussed on Twitter. And this was way before I had any sort of level of following or any sort of, now I do have a lot of people that do respect my view on YouTube, and I'm very, very grateful for that. But there was a time when people were thinking I was nuts when I was talking about this sort of thing. So don't come to me now and just say, oh, you're hating. That doesn't wash here. I'm critical and I praise both Fury and Anthony Joshua. And the fact of the matter is, this doesn't sit right with me. Be calling out AJ. You want that fight to happen. He did say to Frank, we're not going to get the fight in December, are we? So I'll keep busy. Frank said, no. What do you mean no? All this time you've been talking about December. It's not because he's fighting in October. That can't be the reason. Because if he's fighting in October and he's saying, I need more time to prepare for a big fight, because he actually said it's because of inactivity, well, why are you taking another big fight in December, which is Dillian White? It doesn't make sense to me, man. And how inactive are you when you're fighting Deontay Wilder in October to then fight again in December? It's unusual what's happening. I'm not accusing anybody outright of ducking, but something's not sitting right with me. Let me know if you disagree. Maybe I'm overlooking something here. Anyway, thank you for watching, everybody. Let me know what you think about all the topics we've discussed. Chat to you soon. Take care. God bless.